The silence in a house is supposed to be heavy, comforting. It is supposed to be the sound of safety. But that night, the silence felt different. It felt like a held breath. I was lying in bed, staring at the shadows dancing on the ceiling, worrying about the electric bill and the stack of unpaid notices Grant had sworn he handled. Mundane, stupid worries. I did not know that downstairs, the man who had promised to love and protect me was not checking the locks to keep the world out. He was striking a match to burn our world down. You think you know the person sleeping next to you. You think you know what the creak in the hallway means. Until the heat wakes you up and you realize the monster isn't hiding under the bed. He owns the mortgage. I woke up choking, the acrid taste of smoke already filling my lungs. Seconds later, the fire alarm tore through the silence of the early morning. I tried to run, but every door and window was jammed tight. When I finally managed to escape, I saw something that froze the blood in my veins. My husband was standing outside, recording the flames with a smile on his face. He was not trying to save me. He was waiting for me to die. But before I continue, make sure you are already subscribed to the channel and write in the comments, where are you watching this video from? We love knowing how far our stories are reaching. The night was calm when I went to sleep. I remember staring at the ceiling for a few minutes before finally closing my eyes, thinking about how life sometimes seems so normal right before everything falls apart. Grant had gone out earlier, saying he needed to resolve some matters at the office. Nothing unusual. He was always a workaholic, always dealing with some last-minute meeting or some important client. I was so tired I did not even ask. I simply took a shower, put on my pajamas, and threw myself into bed. Sleep came fast and heavy, the kind that pulls you down to a deep place where not even dreams can reach you. I do not know how much time passed, but suddenly something ripped me from that comfortable darkness. A smell. Strong, penetrating, suffocating. My nose began to burn before my mind could process what was happening. It was smoke, dense, toxic smoke, filling the room like a silent intruder. I opened my eyes in panic. Darkness still dominated, but there was something different in the air. A whitish haze floated near the ceiling, reflecting an orange glow that was coming from somewhere inside the house. My heart instantly hammered against my ribs. Then came the sound, shrill, piercing, desperate. The fire alarm erupted in a frantic sequence of beeps that drilled into my eardrums. It was real. The house was on fire. I jumped out of bed with trembling legs. The floor was hot beneath my bare feet, too hot. I ran to the bedroom door, grabbed the knob without thinking, and let out a scream of pain. The metal was searing, burning my palm instantly. I ignored the pain and forced the door with my shoulder. Nothing. The door did not move a single inch. I tried again, this time using all my strength, slamming my body against the wood in desperation. The door was jammed. But why? We never locked the bedroom door from the inside. Never. And even if it were locked, I should be able to open it by turning the latch. My brain began to work at a feverish pace as the smoke became thicker. This door was locked from the outside. Someone had locked me in here. It is a terrifying realization when your sanctuary becomes a cage. The safety of a locked door depends entirely on who holds the key, and I suddenly realized I was on the wrong side of the lock. Panic rose in my throat like bile. I screamed for Grant, my voice coming out raspy and desperate between the coughing fits that were beginning to overpower me. "Grant! Grant! Help me! I am trapped!" Nothing. Only the sinister crackle of the fire consuming the house around me, and that incessant alarm reminding me that time was running out. The smoke was now descending from the ceiling, forming a gray curtain that reduced my visibility to zero. My eyes burned so badly I could barely keep them open. Every breath was torture, as if I were inhaling crushed glass. I stumbled to the window, coughing violently, feeling my chest tighten. The curtains were open, and through the glass fogged by smoke, I could see the yard illuminated by the orange light of the flames that were already consuming the lower part of the house. I grabbed the window latch with my shaking hands and tried to open it. I pulled with all my strength. Nothing happened. I tried again and again. The window would not move. It was not just stuck. I looked closer, and my blood ran cold. Someone had driven nails into the sides of the window frame. Thick nails, hammered deep into the sash, preventing any movement. This was not an accident. This was not an electrical fault or a forgotten candle. Someone planned this. Someone locked me in here to die. The room was becoming unbearably hot. The air was thin. Every attempt to breathe brought more smoke than oxygen. My legs began to give way. I felt my vision blur, not just from the smoke, but from the lack of air. No, I could not faint. If I passed out now, it would be the end. I looked around desperately, searching for anything I could use. My eyes landed on the heavy wooden chair by the desk. It was solid, antique, with thick, sturdy legs. Without thinking twice, I grabbed the chair with both hands. It was heavy, much heavier than I imagined, but the adrenaline coursing through my veins gave me a strength I did not know I had. I lifted the chair over my head, staggering slightly with the weight, and with a scream that came from the depths of my soul, I hurled it against the window. The first impact created a spiderweb crack in the glass. It was not enough. I grabbed the chair again, ignoring the burning in my arms, the cough tearing at my throat, and smashed the window a second time. The glass exploded into 1,000 pieces, falling both inside and out. The fresh night air invaded the room like a blessing, but it also fed the flames that were already licking at the door through the cracks. I had seconds before the room turned into a complete inferno. I climbed onto the windowsill without hesitation. Shards of glass still trapped in the frame sliced my skin, cutting my arms, my legs, my feet. The pain was sharp, but distant. My body was in pure survival mode. I looked down. The ground seemed miles away, although it was probably only 10 feet. There was no time to calculate, to think of a safer way. Either I jumped now, or I burned to death. I closed my eyes and threw myself out. The fall seemed to last an eternity and a second at the same time. My body spun in the air, uncontrolled, and then came the impact. I landed on the wet grass with a thud that knocked all the air out of my lungs. A sharp pain exploded in my right ankle, radiating up my entire leg. My left shoulder had also hit hard, and every movement was agony. But I was alive. I was out. I was breathing pure air. I lay there for a few seconds, gasping, coughing, trying to make my lungs work again. The grass was cold and damp beneath my body, a shocking contrast to the hellish heat I had just escaped. When I could finally move, I turned on my side and tried to prop myself up on my elbow. Every muscle in my body screamed in protest. Slowly, I forced myself to sit up, groaning in pain. Blood was dripping from the cuts on my arms, staining my light-colored pajamas. It was then that I looked up and saw the house. Our house. The downstairs windows were vomiting orange flames that licked the exterior walls, climbing toward the roof. Thick black smoke rose in sinister columns against the dark sky of the early morning. And it was there, in that moment of absolute horror, that my eyes caught something that made my heart stop. A figure. On the other side of the yard, near the fence that separated our property from the street. It was a man, standing completely motionless, with his arm raised in my direction. No, not in my direction. Toward the burning house. He was holding a cell phone, filming. The orange light of the fire illuminated his face clearly enough for me to recognize every feature. My blood, which was already cold, froze completely in my veins. It was Grant, my husband. He was not running in desperation. He was not screaming for help. He was not trying to find me or call the fire department. He was simply there, standing like a statue, filming our house being consumed by flames with the calm of someone watching a sunset. And then I saw it. Even at a distance, even with my vision still blurred by smoke, I saw it clearly. His lips curled. A smile. Small but unmistakable. A smile of satisfaction, of triumph. He was waiting for me to die in there. I do not know how long I stayed there, sitting in the wet grass, staring at Grant. There is a specific kind of heartbreak that happens when the mask falls off. It is not just sadness. It is the total collapse of your reality. The man I loved was not just a stranger. He was my executioner. It could have been seconds or minutes. Time had lost its meaning. All that existed was that image branded into my mind with fire and iron. My husband, the man with whom I shared 5 years of my life, smiling while he watched me die. He still had not seen me. He was too concentrated on filming, capturing every angle of the flames devouring the room where I should have been, where he thought I still was. My body began to shake. It was not just from the cold of the night or the physical shock of the fall. It was something deeper, visceral. It was the collapse of an entire reality. The Grant I knew, who hugged me at night, who made breakfast on Sundays, who laughed at my bad jokes. That Grant never existed. Or maybe he had existed once, but he died somewhere along the way, replaced by this stranger who was now holding a phone as if he were documenting his vacation. That was when I groaned. A low, involuntary sound escaped my lips as I tried to stand, and my injured ankle gave way under my weight. It was just a small noise, but in the stillness of the early morning, it was enough. Grant lowered the phone abruptly. His head snapped in my direction. Our eyes met. I saw the exact moment the shock registered on his face. His eyes went wide. His mouth opened slightly. The phone almost slipped from his hand. For a split second, I saw the real Grant, or rather, I saw the monster behind the mask he had worn so well. But then, in the blink of an eye, the transformation occurred. Like a seasoned actor stepping onto the stage, Grant recomposed his face. The shock gave way to panic. The panic gave way to desperation. He shoved the phone into his pocket so fast he almost dropped it, and then began to run toward me. "Audrey!" His voice tore through the night, charged with an emotion that would have convinced me if I had not seen that smile. "Audrey! Oh my God! Audrey!" He crossed the yard in seconds, his breathing heavy, his eyes wide in feigned concern. He threw himself down beside me on the grass, his hands touching my face, my shoulders, as if ensuring I was real. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" "Oh my God," I thought. His voice cracked convincingly, and tears began to form in his eyes, crocodile tears. "I thought I had lost you." He pulled me into a tight hug, so tight I could feel his heart beating against my chest. But there was something wrong. His heart was not racing as it should be. It was not beating with the frantic rhythm of someone who had just witnessed a horror. It beat steady, controlled, calm. My body went rigid in his arms. Every fiber of my being screamed to get away. But something stopped me, a survival instinct whispering, "Do not reveal that you know. Not yet." What happened? He pulled back a little, holding my face between his hands, forcing me to look him in the eyes. "How did the fire start? Are you hurt?" "Let me see." His hands ran over my arms, examining the cuts from the glass shards. He made all the right sounds of concern, all the right expressions of horror. If I did not know the truth, I would have believed he was the most devoted husband in the world. I do not know." My voice came out raspy, damaged by the smoke I had inhaled. I woke up to the smell of smoke. The door was jammed. I could not get out. I watched his face carefully as I spoke. I saw the slightest flicker of doubt in his eyes when I mentioned the jammed door. It was quick, almost imperceptible, but it was there. "Jammed?" he repeated, furrowing his brow as if genuinely confused. "But how? We never locked that door." "I do not know, Grant. I just know it was jammed." I coughed violently, my lungs still struggling to expel the smoke. I had to break the window to get out. The windows, too. They would not open. "Oh my God." He shook his head. An impeccable performance of disbelief and horror. It must have been the heat. Sometimes metal expands in high temperatures and things get stuck. "Thank God you were able to break the window." Liar. The windows were nailed shut. Heat does not put nails into wooden frames. Sirens began to wail in the distance, getting louder and louder. The fire department was arriving at our street in Chicago. Some neighbors began to appear at windows and doors, woken by the noise and the flames that now illuminated the entire block. Grant stood up quickly, helping me to my feet, although every movement was torture for my injured ankle. He supported me with an arm around my waist, playing the role of the protective husband perfectly. "Calm down, honey. I've got you. Let's get away from the house. The firefighters are already here." His voice was soft, comforting, as he guided me away from the heat of the flames. 2 fire trucks rounded the corner, their red and blue lights painting the night in shades of emergency. EMTs jumped out of an ambulance that came right behind, running in my direction with a stretcher and medical gear. Grant handed me over to their care immediately, but kept a hand on my shoulder, never straying far. He continued with his performance, explaining to the firefighters and paramedics what had happened, or rather, his version of what had happened. He had gone out to buy medicine. His voice was charged with emotion as he spoke to the fire chief. My wife was not feeling well earlier, and the 24-hour CVS is about 15 minutes from here. When I came back, I saw the flames. I tried to go in, but the fire was already too strong. I could not get to her. I thought... He covered his face with his hands, his shoulders shaking in controlled sobs. The firefighters nodded with sympathy, patting his shoulder comfortably. No one suspected a thing. Why would they? He was the devastated husband, the secondary victim of this tragedy. While the EMTs cleaned my wounds and checked my vitals, I watched Grant. He was talking to the neighbors who had gathered, accepting hugs and words of comfort. His performance was flawless. Every gesture, every expression, every word was perfectly calibrated to portray a man in shock, grateful that his wife was alive. But I knew the truth, and that truth burned inside me more intensely than any flame. "Ma'am, we need to take you to the hospital." The older paramedic touched my arm gently. "You inhaled a lot of smoke, and those cuts need stitches. We are going to load you into the ambulance." I nodded in silence. My throat was too damaged to speak much, and part of me was relieved to have an excuse not to have to say anything. Grant immediately offered to go with me, of course. He climbed into the ambulance, sitting by my side, holding my hand during the entire ride to Mercy General Hospital. To any outside observer, we were the perfect couple, united by tragedy. But every time he touched my hand, every time he looked into my eyes with that fake concern, I saw the smile, that damn smile illuminated by the flames. And I knew that if I wanted to survive, really survive, I would have to be smarter than him. I would have to play his game, for now. The hospital was quiet at that hour of the morning. The fluorescent lights of the hallway seemed excessively bright after the darkness of the night and the smoke that had clouded my vision. My eyes burned, not just from physical irritation, but from the tears I refused to let fall in front of Grant. The nurses took me to an emergency room where a young doctor began to examine my injuries. Grant stayed outside initially, talking to the administrative staff about paperwork and insurance. When he finally entered the room, he brought a cup of water and that expression of rehearsed concern that I now recognized as false. "How are you feeling?" He approached, placing a hand on my shoulder. I had to make a conscious effort not to flinch at his touch. Tired. My voice came out even raspier than before. The doctor had explained that my throat was inflamed from smoke inhalation and would probably take days to heal completely. And sore. The doctor said, "You are going to be fine." Grant pulled a chair close to the gurney where I was sitting. "Your lungs are clear, thank God. The cuts will heal. You were lucky, Audrey. Very lucky. Lucky." He called that luck, as if I had escaped by chance and not because I fought desperately for my life while he filmed, waiting for me to die. The doctor returned with a nurse, bringing supplies to stitch the deeper cuts on my arms and legs. Grant held my hand during the procedure, making small circles with his thumb on the back of my hand in a gesture that should be comforting, but made me nauseous. "You must be in shock, too." The nurse looked at Grant with sympathy while applying local anesthesia to my arm. "It must have been terrifying to see your house burning like that." "It was." Grant shook his head, his voice heavy. "I can only think about what could have happened if she hadn't been able to get out, if I had arrived a few minutes later." He left the sentence unfinished, allowing the nurse to fill in the blanks with her own imagination. She made a compassionate sound, clearly moved by the apparent devotion of this husband. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and tell her that the man sitting there, holding my hand so gently, had nailed the window shut. But the truth sounds like madness when you are the only one who knows it. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and tell her that the man sitting there, holding my hand so gently, had nailed the windows, that he had jammed the bedroom door from the outside, that he had started that fire intentionally with the specific goal of killing me. But I couldn't, not without proof. And at that moment, injured, exhausted, still processing the trauma, I knew no one would believe me. Grant had built his persona carefully. To the outside world, we were the perfect couple. He was the attentive husband, the dedicated provider. I would be dismissed as a traumatized woman, possibly delirious from smoke inhalation. So I remained silent, letting them stitch my wounds, while Grant kept his hand on my shoulder, a constant weight reminding me of his presence. After what seemed like an eternity, the medical team finished. I had 12 stitches in total, 5 on my left arm, 4 on my right leg, 3 on my foot. My ankle was bandaged tightly, a severe sprain that would require weeks of recovery. Prescriptions were given for painkillers and antibiotics to prevent infection. We are going to keep her here for observation until tomorrow morning. The doctor made notes on his chart. We want to make sure there are no delayed respiratory complications. Smoke inhalation can be treacherous. Grant thanked him profusely, shaking the doctor's hand with exaggerated gratitude. When we were finally alone in the private room they transferred me to, he pulled a chair close to my bed and sat down. "You need to rest." He adjusted my blanket, smoothing the edges with meticulous care. "It was a horrible night, but it's over. We are safe now." Safe. What a cruel joke. I was trapped in a hospital room with the man who had tried to murder me, and he was talking about safety. "Grant." My voice came out weak, but I needed to ask the question. I needed to see how he would react. "Did you see anything weird when you came back home? Anyone lurking around the property?" He frowned, seeming to consider it carefully. "No, why?" "It's just that—" I paused, feigning doubt. "The doors, Grant." The bedroom door was jammed from the outside. "And the windows?" They weren't just stuck. There was something blocking them. I saw his eyes narrow for a split second before he controlled his expression. "Audrey, you were in a panic. The house was on fire. Sometimes our perception gets distorted in extreme situations." "I know what I saw. I'm sure you do, honey." His tone was patient, almost condescending. "But think about it. Who would want to hurt us? We don't have enemies." It was probably a short circuit, some old wiring. These things happen. He was making me doubt myself, trying to plant the seed of uncertainty. It was a classic manipulation tactic, and if I hadn't seen that smile, maybe it would have worked. Maybe. I turned on my side, closing my eyes. I'm too tired to think about that now. Of course, of course. He stood up, kissing my forehead with a tenderness that made me want to push him away violently. "I'm going to let you rest. I'll stay right here in the chair. I'm not going anywhere." That was exactly what I feared. He wouldn't go anywhere. He would stay there watching me, ensuring I didn't say anything inconvenient to the nurses or doctors. It was surveillance disguised as care. I kept my eyes closed, regulating my breathing to look like I was sleeping. I heard Grant settle into the recliner next to my bed, the leather creaking under his weight. A few minutes later, I heard the soft sound of his breathing becoming deeper and regular, but I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the flames. I saw that smile. I felt the suffocating heat of the room, the burning of the smoke in my lungs, the panic of being trapped with no way out. And now, lying in that hospital bed, surrounded by the monotonous beep of the monitors, I began to think. Really think. Why? Why did Grant want to kill me? It didn't make sense. We weren't rich. We had a comfortable life, but nothing extraordinary. My life insurance was modest. His, too. There was no inheritance coming, no overwhelming debt that I knew of, unless there was something I didn't know. That possibility left me cold. How many things about my own husband was I actually unaware of? We had married after 2 years of dating. He worked in finance, always busy, always with meetings. I was a literature teacher at a private school. A job I loved, but that didn't pay especially well. Our routine was predictable, comfortable, or at least that's what I thought. But what if all that normalcy was just a facade? What if Grant had a whole life I knew nothing about? I needed help. I needed someone I could trust, someone who would believe me. And there was only one person who fit that description. Harper. Harper was my best friend since college. More than that, she was a badass criminal defense attorney and one of the best in Chicago. If anyone could help me navigate this impossible situation, it was her. But how to contact her without Grant noticing? He was there, less than 6 feet from me, and I didn't have my cell phone. It had probably been destroyed in the fire. I would have to wait. Wait for the right moment, the right opportunity. And in the meantime, I would have to keep acting. The traumatized, fragile wife dependent on her dedicated husband for emotional support. While inside, silently, I began to plan my survival. Because now I understood one thing with absolute clarity. Grant had failed to kill me once, but men like him, men who smile while watching their wives burn, don't give up easily. He would try again. And the next time, I had to be prepared. Morning arrived slowly, filtered through the white curtains of the hospital room. The pale light of dawn revealed Grant still sleeping in the recliner, his head tilted at an awkward angle, mouth slightly open. He looked so common, so human. It was difficult to reconcile that image with the monster I knew he was. A nurse entered silently to check my vitals. She smiled, seeing Grant sleeping, and whispered, "He stayed here all night. He didn't want to leave even for a minute. You are lucky to have such a dedicated husband." Lucky. That word again. I forced a weak smile and nodded, unable to form words through the lump in my throat. After the nurse left, I lay there staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The doctor had said they would probably discharge me in the morning, which meant going back to... where? Our house was destroyed. We would have to stay in a hotel, or maybe with someone from Grant's family. That last possibility made me even more tense. Grant's family, his overprotective mother, his successful businessman brother, always treated me with a cold politeness. I was never good enough for their son, never elegant enough, never from a significantly important family. The idea of depending on them now, while secretly suspecting that Grant had tried to kill me, was almost unbearable. Grant woke up around 7 in the morning, rubbing his eyes and stretching his neck with a groan. When his eyes met mine, that carefully calibrated smile appeared instantly. "Good morning, love. How are you feeling?" "Sore." I didn't need to fake the pain. Every inch of my body screamed in protest every time I moved. "I'm going to call the nurse to see if they can give you something stronger for the pain." He stood up, kissing my forehead before leaving the room. As soon as he left, I grabbed the hospital phone next to my bed. My fingers trembled as I dialed the number I had memorized years ago. Harper's cell. She always got up early to run, so there was a chance she would answer even before 7:30 in the morning. 3 rings, 4. My heart was beating frantically. Grant could come back at any moment. "Hello?" Harper's familiar voice sounded on the other end of the line. "Harp." My voice came out in an urgent whisper. "It's me, Audrey. I need help." "Audrey? What are you talking about? It's 7 in the morning and you're whispering. What?" "Please, just listen to me. I don't have much time." I spoke quickly, my eyes fixed on the door. "Something terrible happened. Our house caught fire last night. I almost died." "Oh my God. Are you okay? Where are you?" "I'm at Mercy General." "Harp, it wasn't an accident. Grant tried to kill me. He jammed the bedroom door, nailed the windows shut, and then stood outside filming while the house burned." I saw him smiling. Silence on the other end of the line. For a terrible moment, I thought she wouldn't believe me. "Audrey, are you sure? You inhaled a lot of smoke. You could be confused." "I know how it sounds, but I am completely sure. I saw him, Harp. I saw every detail. And he is here now, acting like the perfect husband, and I don't know what to do. I don't know why he wants to kill me, but I know he'll try again." Okay. Breathe. "Are you in immediate danger now?" "I don't know. He's being very attentive, but it's all fake. It's an act, and the worst part is everyone believes him. Listen, I'm coming there as soon as I can, but I need to be discreet. If Grant really tried to kill you, we can't let him suspect that you know or that you are looking for help. That could rush whatever he is planning." Harper's voice had acquired that professional and calculating tone she used in the courtroom. "For now, keep acting normal. Do not confront him. Do not give any indication that you suspect him. Got it?" "Got it. And Audrey, try to document everything. Anything strange he does or says. We are going to need concrete proof." The sound of footsteps in the hallway made me freeze. "I have to go. He's coming back." I hung up the phone just as Grant opened the door, bringing a nurse with him. If he noticed anything strange in my expression, he didn't show it. The nurse administered more painkillers through my IV and checked my dressings. "The doctor should stop by in a while to discharge you." She smiled warmly. Your lung exams came back clear. You were very lucky. There was that word again. Lucky. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a wheelchair being pushed by Grant across the hospital parking lot. The morning sun was too bright, making my eyes burn, or maybe it was the tears I kept holding back. I booked a room at a hotel near downtown. Grant opened the passenger door of his car, a black sedan he kept impeccably clean. Just temporarily until we figure out what to do with the house. Insurance should cover everything, but it will take time. Insurance, right. That made sense now. Grant had burned the house down to get the insurance money. But why would he need to kill me too? Unless there was more money at stake. My life insurance. It wasn't a fortune, but it was $500,000. For someone desperate for money, it might be enough. But Grant had a good job. At least that was what he always said. Unless that was also a lie. During the drive to the hotel, I watched Grant carefully. He drove with one hand on the wheel, the other occasionally reaching out to touch my knee in a gesture that should be comforting. He talked about how we would rebuild everything, how this was just a temporary obstacle, how we would come out stronger from this test. The words were right, the tone was right. But there was something about the way his eyes didn't match his smile, as if he was constantly calculating, planning his next moves. The hotel was mid-range, nothing extravagant. Grant helped me inside, insisting on carrying the small bag with the emergency belongings the hospital had provided. The room was clean, but impersonal. Queen-size bed, flat-screen TV, tiny bathroom, a window overlooking the parking lot. I'm going to run out quickly to buy some clothes for both of us. Grant helped me sit on the bed. Do you need anything else? My cell phone. The words came out before I could stop them. I need a new cell phone to call people, tell them about the fire. Grant hesitated for a split second. Sure, I'll get you one, but maybe it's better if you rest first. People can wait. Grant, my parents. They're going to be worried when they find out. I already called them this morning from the hospital. I explained everything. They wanted to come immediately, but I said you needed to rest and that I would keep them posted. He had called my parents without telling me, controlling the narrative before I could talk to them. One more piece fitting into the puzzle of his manipulation. That was considerate. I forced the words through gritted teeth. It's the least I can do. He kissed the top of my head. I'll be back in an hour. Lock the door after I leave and don't open it for anyone, okay? I nodded, and he finally left. I barely heard his footsteps retreating down the hall before I grabbed the hotel phone and dialed Harper again. I'm at a hotel. I gave her the address and room number quickly. Grant just left. He said he'll be back in an hour. I'm on my way. Don't open the door for anyone else. And Audrey? When he comes back, try to find out as much as possible about your financial situation. Bank statements, debts, anything. Men don't commit murder without a motive, and money is almost always the answer. She hung up, and I sat there on the hotel bed, looking around the impersonal room, feeling the weight of my new reality. My husband had tried to kill me, and now I was trapped in a hotel room with him, pretending nothing was wrong, while secretly trying to gather evidence before he tried again. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had escaped a locked burning room only to find myself trapped in another kind of prison, one made not of locked doors and nailed windows, but of lies, manipulation, and fear. But this time I had something I didn't have before. I had knowledge. I knew who he really was. And with Harper's help, I would find a way out of this trap. Because if years of teaching literature taught me anything, it's that every story has an ending. And I was determined to ensure that the end of this story didn't finish with my death. Harper arrived 20 minutes later, knocking on the door in a specific pattern we had agreed on over the phone. 3 quick knocks, pause, 2 knocks. I opened the door quickly and she entered, closing it behind her with a soft click. She hugged me tight, and it was only then that I finally let the tears fall. Silent sobs shook my body as she held me, stroking my hair, murmuring words of comfort. For a moment, I allowed myself to be vulnerable, to be the terrified woman who almost burned to death in her own home. But only for a moment. Tell me everything. Harper guided me to the bed, sitting beside me, holding my hands. Every detail, no matter how small or irrelevant it seems. And so I told her. About waking up to the smell of smoke, about the jammed door and the nailed windows, about breaking the glass and jumping, the pain of the fall, and about that horrible moment when I saw Grant outside, filming, smiling. Harper listened in silence, her expression becoming increasingly grim. When I finished, she let out a long sigh. Okay. First thing, we need that video. If he really filmed the fire, it's direct proof of premeditation and awareness of the crime. Even if it doesn't show that he started the fire, it shows him watching without taking action to save you, which can characterize failure to render aid or even complicity. How am I going to get his phone? He doesn't go anywhere without it. We'll think of that. But first, I need to understand the motive. Audrey, do you guys have financial problems? Debts that you know of? I shook my head. Not that I know of. Grant always handled the finances. He said I didn't have to worry about that my salary could go entirely to my things and he would cover the household expenses. Harper frowned. That is a problem. It means he could be hiding anything from you. Gambling debts, bad loans, failed investments. Audrey, do you have access to your bank accounts? Only my personal account. He has a joint account for house expenses, but I never paid much attention. I transferred money there every month, and he paid the bills automatically. Do you know where he keeps financial documents, statements, contracts? There was a home office, but, my voice cracked, everything must have burned. Not necessarily. Harper pulled her tablet out of her bag. Banks keep records online, credit card companies too. If we can access his logins, we can see everything. Do you know his passwords? No. He was always very careful with that. And the phone? Do you know the passcode? I thought for a moment. He uses a fingerprint most of the time, but I think the numerical code is his birth date. 1508, August 15th. Good. That's something. Harper typed notes into her tablet. When he gets back, try to observe if he accesses bank accounts or makes any transactions. Any information you get is useful. A thought occurred to me. Harp, there is one more thing. The insurance. The house was insured, obviously. But there is also the life insurance. My life insurance. How much? $500,000. Grant is the beneficiary. Harper nodded slowly, her suspicions clearly confirmed. And let me guess, he was the one who suggested you get that insurance? I thought back, trying to remember. It was about a year ago. Grant had come home with the papers, saying it was important to have that protection, especially because I didn't have close family besides my parents. If something happened to me, he would be responsible for everything, including funeral costs and debts. At the time, it seemed sensible. Now it seemed sinister. Yes, he brought the papers ready. I just signed. And the house insurance? What is the value? I think it was $750,000. The house was valued at $1.2 million, but he only insured the structure, not the full contents. $1,250,000 in total, then. Harper whistled low. That's a good motive for arson and homicide, especially if he's desperate for money. We heard footsteps in the hallway. We both froze. Harper quickly put away her tablet and stood up. Back window. Is there a fire escape? I don't know. I haven't looked. Doesn't matter. If it's Grant, say I came to visit you quickly when I heard about the accident. Concerned friend. Nothing out of the ordinary, got it? I nodded, my heart racing. The footsteps passed right by our door, continuing down the hall. We both let out a breath. He must be coming back soon. Harper held my shoulders, looking me straight in the eye. Audrey, you need to be strong. I know you are scared, but you can't show it to him. Act normal. Be the wife traumatized by the fire, but do not suspect him. If he realizes you know, he might panic and do something impulsive. I know. I'm going to be careful. I'm going to install an app on my phone that lets me track your location. And I'm going to give you a burner phone. She pulled a small cell phone out of her bag. It already has my number saved. Use it only in emergencies and make sure Grant never finds it. Hide it well. I took the small phone, feeling its weight in my hands. It was a simple, basic device, but in that moment, it seemed like a lifeline. Where do I hide it? Harper looked around the room. Your clothes? In the lining of your bra or inside the insole of your shoe? Somewhere he would never check? I went to the bathroom and hid the cell phone in the box of sanitary pads the hospital had given me. Grant would never look there. When I came back, Harper was near the door listening. "I'm leaving now. Remember, document everything. Strange behaviors, suspicious conversations, anything, and try to get access to that video. It's our best chance to catch him before he tries again." She hugged me one more time, then left quickly, her boots echoing softly in the hallway. I stayed alone in the room, the silence weighing on me. I looked at my reflection in the mirror above the dresser. My hair was disheveled, my face stained with tears, bandages visible on my arms. I looked exactly like a victim, which was good, because that was what Grant expected to see. I sat on the bed and turned on the TV, tuning into a random news channel. I needed to look like I was just resting when he arrived. 15 minutes later, the key turned in the lock. Grant entered carrying several shopping bags. His face lit up seeing me. "Hi, love. I bought some clothes for you. I had to guess the sizes, so if they don't fit, we can exchange them." He started pulling clothes out of the bags, t-shirts, sweatpants, basic underwear, everything in neutral colors, nothing like the clothes I normally wore. "Thank you." I took one of the t-shirts, feeling the cheap fabric between my fingers. "I also bought toiletries and a new cell phone for you." He handed me a box. "I already put in your old SIM card and set everything up. You just have to call and tell your contacts about the new number." I took the phone, turning it on. It was a basic, cheap model, nothing like the smartphone I had before. Grant watched while I explored the device. I thought it was better to buy something simple for now. Until we see how much the insurance covers and how our financial situation stands. That caught my attention. "Our financial situation is fine, right? I mean, you always said we were comfortable." I saw the slightest flicker of doubt cross his face. "We are, of course. I'm just being cautious." A fire is a traumatic and expensive event, even with insurance. It will take time to process everything. How much time? For the house insurance? Probably a few months. They need to investigate, confirm it wasn't fraud. He laughed, but there was a false note in it, as if someone would burn their own house on purpose. I watched his expression carefully. He looked confident, but there was sweat on his forehead. The hotel room wasn't hot. "And my life insurance?" The words came out before I could stop them. "I mean, if I had died, would you have received the money fast?" Grant stood completely still for a moment. Then he forced a smile. "Why are you thinking about that?" "Just curiosity. I was thinking about how lucky I was, how everything could have ended differently." "Don't think about that." He approached, sitting beside me, taking my hands. "You are alive. That's all that matters. Money is just money. You are irreplaceable." The words were sweet, romantic even, but his eyes were cold, calculating. He was lying, and in that moment, looking into his empty eyes, I realized something terrible. Grant wasn't just trying to kill me for the money. There was something else, something I didn't understand yet, and if I wanted to survive, I needed to find out what. The following days at the hotel turned into a strange and suffocating routine. Grant was always present, always attentive, always controlling. He went out only to resolve insurance matters or buy groceries, but never for more than an hour. The rest of the time he stayed glued to me, under the pretext of taking care of his traumatized wife. I used that trauma as a shield. I faked panic attacks when I heard sirens. I flinched at seeing matches or lighters on TV. I cried in my sleep, or at least pretended to cry. Grant seemed satisfied with these displays of fragility. They made him lower his guard. But at night, when he finally slept, I remained awake, staring at the ceiling, planning. The burner phone Harper gave me was hidden inside a sanitary pad in the bathroom. I checked it only when Grant showered or stepped out briefly. Harper had hired a private investigator, Mitch, to examine Grant's finances. She was also trying to get access to the insurance records and check if there were precedents, if Grant had tried something like this before. On the third day at the hotel, something changed. Grant received a call that left him visibly agitated. He stepped out into the hallway to answer, but I managed to hear fragments through the thin door. I said, "I'm going to pay. I need more time. The insurance money is going to cover everything." Debts. So that was it. Or at least part of it. When he returned to the room, his face was tense, but he quickly recomposed his expression upon seeing me watching. "Everything okay, honey?" "It was work, some problems that need to be resolved." He took the car keys. "I need to go out for a few hours. Will you be okay here alone?" My heart raced. It was the first time he would leave me alone for more than an hour since the fire. "I think so, but can't you solve that problem over the phone?" "No, I need to be there in person." He kissed my forehead. "Lock the door and don't open for anyone. I'll be back before dinner." As soon as he left, I waited 5 minutes to make sure he wouldn't come back. Then I grabbed the burner phone and called Harper. "He went out. I don't know for how long." "Perfect. I'm sending the investigator over there. He's going to install a tracker on Grant's car and, if possible, a listening device. He's also going to check the room while you are there. There might be something hidden that gives us clues about what he is planning. And if he comes back? The investigator is discreet. He'll look like hotel maintenance if anyone asks. Just make sure the door is unlocked for him." 15 minutes later, a middle-aged man in a maintenance uniform knocked on the door. He discreetly showed an ID confirming he was from Harper's team. "Mitch." He introduced himself with a brief nod. "I'm going to be quick. You need to stay near the door and warn me if you see your husband coming back." I did as he asked, keeping myself near the door while Mitch worked with terrifying efficiency. First, he installed tiny audio and video devices in strategic places, inside the smoke alarm, behind the mirror, inside the TV. Then, with my permission, he went to Grant's car in the parking lot. I stayed in the room, my heart beating fast at every sound in the hallway. Every footstep, every voice made my entire body tense up, but Mitch returned just 10 minutes later. "Done. GPS tracker installed on the car. The mics in the room should pick up any conversation. We'll be able to monitor everything remotely." He handed me a small device that looked like a USB drive. "This here is a backup of what we record. If something goes wrong, you have the recordings." "And if he finds the microphones?" "They are extremely small and well hidden. He would have to be looking specifically for them, and even then it would be difficult. But if he finds them, call Harper immediately and get out of here, understood?" I nodded, taking the device and hiding it together with the burner phone. Mitch left as silently as he arrived, and I went back to pretending normalcy, sitting on the bed and turning on the TV. My heart was still racing when Grant arrived 2 hours later. He seemed more relaxed than when he had left, which was strange considering the tense call from earlier. He brought Chinese takeout bags for dinner. "How are you?" He placed the containers on the small table. "Did you miss me?" "Yes." I lied easily now. It's strange to be alone after everything that happened. We ate in relative silence, Grant occasionally updating me on the progress with the insurance, all carefully constructed lies. I was sure. That night, when he was already sleeping, I went to the bathroom and turned on the burner phone. There was a message from Harper. "Tracker working. He went to 3 places today: a casino in the Loop, a known loan shark, and the office of a lawyer specializing in insurance fraud. Keep acting normal. We are close." A casino, a loan shark. The puzzle pieces were finally fitting together. Grant had gambling debts, probably substantial ones, and he was planning to use the insurance money to pay them. But there was still something that didn't add up. Why kill me? The house insurance would be enough for most debts. Why risk a homicide charge unless the debts were much larger than I imagined? Or unless there was another reason. The next morning, I had my answer. Grant left early, saying he needed to go to the bank. As soon as he left, I checked the burner phone. Harper had sent files, bank statements the investigator had obtained. What I saw left me breathless. Grant had withdrawn $300,000 from the joint account over the last 6 months. Small withdrawals, strategically spaced to not draw attention. Plus, he had 3 credit cards with maxed-out limits, totaling another $200,000 in debt. But the worst was in a recent transfer. $1,500 sent to an account in the name of Vanessa Mendoza with the description, "Child support." My world stopped for a moment. Vanessa Mendoza. I knew that name. She was a woman Grant had said was a former coworker, someone who occasionally appeared in photos from his company events. He always assured me she was just a professional acquaintance, but child support meant only one thing: a son. Grant had a son with another woman. A son he was maintaining secretly, taking money from our joint account, lying about everything. The transfers started 2 years ago, shortly after our wedding. I was the stupid wife who knew nothing, the convenient source of income. And now, with gambling debts suffocating him, I had become an obstacle, more valuable dead than alive. Betrayal is not always a sudden explosion. Sometimes it is a slow bleed. $1,000 here, a lie there, a secret family funded by the wife you plan to murder. My hands shook holding the phone. Anger, betrayal, horror, everything mixed in an emotional storm that threatened to consume me. But I forced calm. I forced clarity. Harper was right. Men don't commit murder without a reason, and now I knew all of Grant's reasons. When he returned that afternoon, I was in bed, supposedly resting. He approached, kissing my forehead like he always did, and I had to use all my willpower not to pull away. "How are you, love?" "Better." I looked into his eyes. Those eyes I had loved once, and I saw only a stranger. "Actually, I was thinking, when can we start rebuilding the house?" Grant seemed surprised by the question. "Oh, well, it's still going to take a few months until the insurance releases everything." "Why?" "I was just thinking about the future, about starting over. Maybe even—" I paused as if hesitating. "Maybe even expanding the family." I saw his entire body tense up. Expanding? Having kids? After almost dying, I realized life is short. Maybe it's time to think about having babies. The discomfort on his face was palpable. He couldn't say no without raising suspicions, but the idea clearly horrified him. "It's something to think about." He pulled away, taking the remote control and turning on the TV. "When things calm down." That night, I heard Grant make a call when he thought I was sleeping. He whispered, but Mitch's microphones would pick up everything. "No, not yet. She is recovering. I need to wait for the right moment." "Yes, I know how much you need, but I can't rush this." He was talking to the loan shark. Or maybe Vanessa. It didn't matter. What mattered was that Grant was planning his next move, and thanks to Harper, I would be ready. A week after the fire, Grant announced he had found a temporary apartment to rent while the house situation was resolved. It was in an older building, far from our old neighborhood, but he insisted it was the best option for the price. What he really wanted to say was, it was isolated, fewer nosy neighbors, fewer witnesses. Harper warned me not to refuse. It would be too suspicious. So I accepted, playing the grateful wife for the husband who was taking care of everything. The apartment was on the 5th floor of a 6-story walk-up. It had 1 bedroom, a small kitchen, and windows that faced a dark alley. The first thing I noticed was that the windows had bars. "For security," Grant explained. But I saw those bars and thought of prison. Mitch installed new surveillance devices as soon as we moved in, disguised as the internet technician. Harper could now monitor me 24 hours a day. It was comforting and terrifying at the same time. "If you scream or activate the panic alarm I installed on your watch, I'll be there in 5 minutes." Harper assured me over the phone while Grant was at the supermarket. "The police will be informed and on standby." "But Audrey, we need to catch him in the act. We need irrefutable proof of attempted murder. You want me to be the bait." "I want you to be safe. But yes, if he tries something, we need to document it. It's the only way to guarantee he goes to jail and stays there." That night, Grant was weird, quieter than normal. He made dinner. Pasta with red sauce, my favorite dish, but he barely touched his own food. He just watched me eat, his eyes fixed on every bite I took to my mouth. "Is everything okay?" I asked, putting down the fork. "Yes, sure, just tired." He rubbed his face. "It's been hard dealing with the insurance, with everything." I lied, saying I understood, that I was proud of him for being so strong. The words came easily now. Lying had become second nature. Later, when I went to the bathroom, I noticed something strange. A new bottle of sleeping pills in the cabinet. It wasn't prescribed for me, and certainly wasn't Grant's. He always prided himself on never needing medication for anything. I photographed the bottle with the burner phone and sent it to Harper. Her response came in seconds. "Ambien, high dose. He is planning something. Don't take anything he offers." My stomach turned. The dinner. He had kept watching me eat. Did he put something in the food? I ran to the toilet and forced myself to vomit. Better safe than sorry. When I went back to the living room, Grant was clearing the plates. "Are you okay? I heard you in the bathroom." "I think I ate too fast. My stomach is still sensitive after everything." I leaned against the wall, feigning dizziness. "You should rest." He guided me to the bedroom, extremely attentive. "I'm going to make you some tea to calm your stomach." "It's not necessary. I'm fine. I just want to lie down." But he insisted. 10 minutes later, he returned with a steaming cup of chamomile tea. "Drink it. It will help you sleep too." I took the cup, blew on the steam, but didn't drink. "It's too hot. I'm going to let it cool a little." I put the cup on the nightstand and lay down, closing my eyes. I heard Grant moving around the room, the sound of drawers opening. I peeked through my eyelashes and saw him rummaging through my things, looking for something. The cell phone. He was looking for my cell phone. Thank God I had hidden the burner in the lining of my jacket in the closet. He found only the basic smartphone he himself had given me, checked it quickly and put it back. "Audrey?" He touched my shoulder. I made a sleepy sound, keeping my eyes closed. "Did you drink your tea?" Too tired." I heard him sigh, frustrated. Then I heard something that froze my blood, the sound of liquid being poured. He was pouring out the tea, probably so I wouldn't discover it was drugged. When I finally heard his footsteps receding and the bedroom door closing partially, I opened my eyes. I waited 20 minutes to make sure he was in the living room watching TV. Then, silently, I grabbed the burner phone and texted Harper. He tried to drug me. "Sleeping pills in the tea." Her response was immediate. "Did you drink?" "No." I pretended I was going to drink, and he poured it out when I wasn't looking. "Great. Save the cup if possible. We need it as evidence. And Audrey? Stay on high alert tonight. If he thinks you are drugged, he might try something." My heart raced. I got up silently and went to the teacup. It still had a little liquid at the bottom. I took a small empty water bottle I had kept and poured the rest of the tea into it, closing it tight. I hid the bottle inside the box of sanitary pads in the bathroom, my trusty hiding place. I went back to bed and lay down in exactly the same position, forcing my breathing to be slow and deep, imitating heavy sleep. And I waited. 1 hour passed. 2. I heard Grant moving around the living room, the muffled sound of the TV. Then, around 3 in the morning, I heard his footsteps approaching the bedroom. The door opened slowly. He entered, his steps deliberately silent. He stopped beside the bed. "Audrey?" His voice was a whisper. "Are you awake?" I kept my breathing even, no response. He touched my shoulder, shaking me lightly. "Audrey?" I remained completely motionless, every muscle in my body tense, but feigning total relaxation. I heard him sigh, a sound of satisfaction, and then his footsteps moving away, but he didn't leave the room. I heard sounds of drawers opening, things being moved. What was he looking for? Then I heard a metallic click I recognized immediately, the small safe I owned where I kept important documents. He was opening it. Through my half-open eyelashes, I saw Grant crouched in the corner of the room, the safe open in front of him. He was taking out papers, certificates, passport, deeds, and in the middle of it all, my life insurance policy. He looked at the policy for a long moment, his fingers tracing the numbers. $500,000. Then he put everything back, closed the safe, and left the room. I waited 15 more minutes before moving. Then, very carefully, I took the burner phone hidden in my jacket. A message was already waiting for me, from Harper. "Cameras caught everything. He was checking your policy. Audrey, I think he's going to try something today. You need to get out of there now." My fingers shook as I typed. "How? He is between me and the door." "Window. There is a fire escape 2 floors down. Can you climb down to it?" I looked at the barred window. The bars were old, screwed into the wall, but one of the sections looked looser than the others. I had noticed it when we moved in. "I'm going to try." "Support team is coming up now. 5 minutes." "I just need 5 minutes." I put the phone in my pocket and silently walked to the window. The bars were held by old, rusted screws. I took a knife from the makeup kit I had kept and began to work on the loosest screw. It gave way easier than I expected, falling to the floor with a soft ping. I worked on the next one. My hands were sweating, slipping on the knife. And then I heard it. Footsteps. Grant was coming back. I worked faster, forcing the third screw. He was approaching the bedroom door. The fourth screw. The grate was loose enough to push. The doorknob began to turn. I pushed the grate with all my strength. It gave with a metallic screech that was too loud. Grant heard it. The door flew open. "Audrey!" I didn't look back. I opened the window and threw myself out, grabbing the windowsill of the apartment below. My arms screamed in protest, the stitches pulling, but I didn't let go. "Audrey, no!" Grant was at the window, trying to reach me. I let go, landing on the narrow concrete ledge 1 floor down. Pain exploded in my still injured ankle, but I kept moving, desperately searching for the fire escape Harper had mentioned. There, 6 feet to the left, an old metal ladder descending down the side of the building. I ran toward it just as Grant began to come down the building stairs. He would be faster than me, even with my small head start. I went down the ladder as fast as I could, my feet slipping on steps wet from the night dew. I could hear Grant screaming my name, his voice echoing through the alley. And then, like a gift from the heavens, I saw blue and red lights rounding the corner, 2 patrol cars and a black sedan. Harper. "Here!" I screamed, waving my arms desperately. "I'm here!" Grant came out through the main door of the building just as the police jumped out of their cars. He stopped, frozen, his eyes going from me to them and back. For a moment, I thought he was going to run, but then, like a consummate actor, his expression changed. Concern, confusion, fear. "Thank God!" He started walking toward me. "Officers, my wife is confused. She survived a terrible fire and has been traumatized. Mr. Santos, please, stay where you are." One of the officers positioned himself between us. Harper got out of the sedan, walking to me and wrapping me in a protective hug. "Are you okay?" I nodded, shaking uncontrollably now that the adrenaline began to fade. "What the hell is going on?" Grant looked between us, his confusion seeming genuine. "Audrey, why did you call the police?" "I was just worried about you." "Cut the act, Grant." Harper turned to him, her voice cold and professional. "We have recordings of you drugging her tea tonight. We have records of your gambling debts, of the transfers to Vanessa Mendoza, of your secret son. We have evidence from the GPS tracker showing your visits to the loan shark. And most importantly," she signaled to one of the officers, who approached holding a laptop, "we have this." The officer turned the screen so everyone could see. It was a video. The video Grant had filmed the night of the fire. My heart stopped when I saw the flames on the screen. The camera focused on our burning house. And then, there it was. Grant's face illuminated by the fire, that sinister smile. How did you get that?" Grant stammered, his face visibly paling even under the dim streetlights. "Cloud backup." Harper smiled coldly. "You deleted it from your phone, but you forgot it was set to auto-upload. Our IT team recovered everything." I watched as Grant's mask finally fell completely. There was no longer the worried husband, only rage, desperation, defeat. "You bitch," he hissed, looking at me with a hatred that froze my blood. "You had no right to snoop in my life. That money was mine by right. I worked for it. I married you for it." "You married me for the money?" My voice came out firmer than I expected. "I was a teacher, Grant. I didn't have money. But you had the apartment your parents left you, and the life insurance I made you buy, and the house we bought in your name to get a better loan." He laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "You were my retirement plan, Audrey. And then I ruined everything with gambling, and that bitch Vanessa started demanding more and more child support, and I had no other choice." "You always had a choice," I said quietly. "You could have asked for a divorce. You could have been honest." "And split everything? Lose half?" "No, it was easier this way. A tragic accident. Everyone loved you. I would be the devastated widower swimming in insurance money. Perfect." The officers were approaching now, handcuffs ready. Grant realized too late that he had confessed everything. "Grant Santos, you are under arrest for attempted murder and arson." The officer began reading his rights while handcuffing him. Grant struggled for a moment. Then he stood still, head down. "I loved you once, you know," he said while being led to the patrol car. "In the beginning, before everything got so complicated." "No." My voice came out firm, clear. "You never loved me. You loved the idea of me. The convenient version that fit into your plans." They put him in the back seat of the cruiser, and I watched as they took him away. No part of me felt pity, only relief. Overwhelming relief that I was alive, that I had won. Harper hugged me again, and this time I let the tears fall. Not from sadness, but from pure exhaustion. It was over, really over. "Come," Harper said gently, guiding me to her car. "You're staying with me tonight. And tomorrow we start rebuilding your life. The real life, without lies." As we drove away, I looked one last time at the building where I had almost died for the second time. The dark windows, the faded walls. It seemed smaller now, less threatening. It was just a building, and Grant was just a man. A weak, greedy man who had underestimated the strength of a woman determined to survive. He would never make that mistake again. 6 months later, I sat on a wooden bench outside the courthouse, watching people pass by. The sun was bright, almost blinding, but in a good way. In a way that reminded me I was alive to see another day. The trial was over. Grant was sentenced to 25 years to life for attempted premeditated murder and arson. The evidence was overwhelming. The video of him filming the fire, the audio recordings of him admitting his plans, the drugged tea, the financial records showing his gambling debts and secret payments to Vanessa. His lawyer tried to plead temporary insanity, extreme pressure from debts, even compulsive gambling syndrome. But none of that changed the fundamental fact. He had tried to kill me. Twice, in a premeditated, calculated way. The district attorney was relentless, and I was there for every day of the trial, sitting in the front row, looking Grant in the eye every time he tried to look at me. I wanted him to see that I was no longer the naive wife he had tried to murder. I was the woman who put him behind bars. Vanessa also testified. I discovered that she didn't know Grant was married when they started the relationship. He had lied to her too, saying he was divorced, that he was free. When she got pregnant, he promised to take responsibility. But the payments were irregular, always with excuses about temporary financial difficulties. She was as shocked as I was when the whole truth came to light. We even talked briefly after her testimony. It was strange sitting with the woman I had considered the other and realizing we were both victims of the same manipulative man. "He told me he loved you," Vanessa confessed, with tears in her eyes, "that you were just friends who married for tax convenience." I believed him. God, I was so stupid. "We both were," I said gently, "but not anymore." Her son, a 2-year-old boy named Leo, was well cared for. Vanessa was a good mother. She worked hard as a nurse. She didn't ask me for anything, but I decided to help her financially. It wasn't the child's fault he had a monster for a father. With Grant in jail, I could finally access all our accounts and understand the true extent of the financial disaster. He had accumulated more than $400,000 in gambling debts and loan shark loans. Our house was mortgaged to the ceiling. The apartment my parents left me, my only truly valuable property, was about to be seized to pay a debt I didn't even know existed because Grant had forged my signature on loan documents. Harper helped me legally contest those debts. Since I had no knowledge of them and my signature was forged, we managed to void most of them. But the process was long and painful. The house insurance eventually paid for the destruction, but it wasn't as much as I expected. After investigating and confirming it was arson, they deducted a percentage for residential security negligence, as if I had any responsibility for my husband trying to burn me alive. Still, it was enough money to start over. I sold the land where our house stood. I didn't want to rebuild there. I didn't want anything else linking me to that life, to those memories. With the money from the sale and insurance, I bought a small but cozy condo, closer to the school where I taught. It was liberating to choose every piece of furniture, every wall color, every detail. It was my space, mine alone. No one else had keys. No one else had access to my documents, my finances, my life. I also started therapy. Harper insisted, and she was right. It wasn't just the trauma of the fire or the betrayal. It was processing everything. How had I not seen the signs? How did I not notice I was married to a stranger? My therapist, Dr. Collins, was patient with me. "You saw what he wanted you to see," she explained. "People like Grant are experts at creating personas, convincing masks that show exactly what others want to see. It's not your fault you didn't notice. It's his skill at deceiving." It took months, but eventually I began to believe her. The guilt I carried of having been stupid, naive, blind, began to dissipate. I wasn't the villain of this story. I was the survivor. My parents were amazing throughout the whole process. My mother stayed with me for weeks after the trial, making soup and forcing me to eat when I had no appetite. My father, always the quiet type, installed the best security system he could afford in my new condo. "No one is going to hurt you again," he said firmly, testing every lock, every alarm. "Not while I'm alive." That made me cry more than anything else, knowing I had people who truly loved me, who protected me without expecting anything in return. True love, I realized, looked nothing like what Grant had given me. I went back to teaching 3 months after the trial. My students made welcome cards. The whole school staff was overwhelming in a good way. "We missed you, Mrs. Audrey," said one of my sophomore students, hugging me tight. "Your classes are the best." That reminded me why I loved my job. It wasn't for the money. It never was. It was about making a difference in people's lives. Helping young minds fall in love with literature, with stories, with the beauty of language. And my own story, as terrible as part of it had been, was now a story of survival, of resilience. Harper and I became even closer. She was there every step of the way, from the moment she believed me on the phone to standing by my side in court. She refused to charge for her services, saying friendship was priceless. "You saved me," I told her at a dinner a few weeks after the trial. "You literally kept me alive." "You saved yourself," she corrected. "I just gave you the tools." But it was you who had the courage to use them, to face him, to survive. That was all you, Audrey. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night, sweating, dreaming of smoke and fire. Sometimes I hear the fire alarm in my dreams and wake up screaming. Dr. Collins says it's normal, that PTSD doesn't disappear overnight. But every day gets a little easier. Every night I sleep peacefully is a victory. Every morning I wake up in my own apartment, safe and free, is a gift. Grant sent me letters from prison, 3 of them. I didn't read any, I simply burned them. A small irony that didn't go unnoticed. Harper advised me not to have any contact with him, and I agreed. He didn't deserve another piece of my attention, of my time, of my life. Vanessa also told me he tried to contact her, asking her to visit, to bring Leo. She refused. "He's not a father," she told me. "He's just a DNA donor. Leo doesn't need a murderer as a role model." Today, sitting on this bench outside the courthouse, watching people live their common lives, I feel at peace. Not complete happiness yet, that will take time, but peace. The storm has passed, and I am still standing. My phone rings, the new one, which I control completely, with no one monitoring or lying about its use. It's a message from my mother. "Dinner on Sunday? I'm making your favorite lasagna." I smile as I reply. Of course I can't wait. Family, true friends, a job I love, a home that is truly mine, those are the things that matter, not money, not status, not carefully constructed appearances of perfection. What matters is truth, safety, real love, and for the first time in years, maybe for the first time since I met Grant, I have all those things. The smoke has cleared, the fire is out, and from the ashes, I built something new, something stronger. I built a life worth living, and no one, never again anyone, is going to take it from me. I get up from the bench, adjusting my bag on my shoulder. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, colors of fire, but now they are pretty, not threatening. I walk toward the subway, my steps firm and confident. I have a therapy session tomorrow, lunch with Harper on Thursday, grading exams on the weekend. I have a life, a real, honest, mine life, and there is nothing more precious than that. Now, if you like this story, click subscribe. And tell me in the comments, what part left you with your mouth open? Oh, and don't forget to become a member to have access to exclusive videos I don't upload here. I'll see you there. This was a heavy journey to close. There is no resentment left, only clarity. While this story takes the shape of fiction, it reflects the silent realities that happen behind too many locked doors. It is a quiet reminder that dignity is not negotiable and that boundaries are the only things keeping us safe from the monsters we invite in. It is light, deep, and leaves an echo like a silent truth that you carry with you.